So at the outset, I would take this opportunity to thank and congratulate Nursing Teachers Association of India, President Dr. Farooq Khan, Secretary Dr. Manish, Treasurer Dr. Poonam for organizing such a vibrant webinar series, which is the need of an hour. And I would like to thank the entire team for giving me this opportunity to be part of this webinar and to present a session on sampling methods. Thank you so much to the entire team of Nursing Teachers Association of India. So now the topic is sampling methods. So I think this is the easiest topic in the research, and we all are well versed with the sampling methods, isn't it? So I will just give a gist of it, and we'll try to learn more and more, and we will just brush it up what we know about it. Okay. So the content what we'll be covering is introduction, basic terminologies, advantages and disadvantages of sampling, sampling process, probability sampling, non-probability sampling, and sampling errors. So I hope I am audible and my slides are visible.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible and your slides are visible too.
Thank you so much. So the introduction, sampling is, we all know, it is the process of selecting representative units from an entire population of a study. So sampling is not a new development, but in recent times it is used by people of all the field and in a day-to-day life. So to get an understanding about societies or opinions or situations. Okay. So example, a grain buyer, if a grain buyer have to buy a bag of grains. So whether the grain buyer is seeing each and every grains, no. The grain buyer, what they are doing, they are taking a handful of grains and they are seeing it, how, what is the quality, what is the texture, what is the color, and then by seeing that handful of grains, they are making the generalized opinion about the entire bag of grains. So that is sampling. The another example is the pathologist. So when we have to take, we have to go for a blood test. So the pathologist, they take few ml of blood to measure what is the hemoglobin level of an individual or any other parameters, blood parameters such as the creatinine level or the sugar level. So the pathologist is only taking few ml of blood. So that is the sample. So in the same way, the researcher, they draws a representative part of a population through sampling process. One minute. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, so now before going to the topic, we'll see some terminologies which I think we all know. So what is a population or universe? So it refers to the group of people, items or units under investigation and includes every individual. Okay, so that is the population. What can be the example? So all students in a school, if we want to do a study in a school, so all the students who are present in the school, that will be our population. Or if we want to do any study in about a country, so all the people who are residing in that particular country, that will be our population. Now coming to what is target population. So target population, that consists of total number of people or objects which are meeting the designated set of criteria. So researcher will have a set of criteria. If those set of criteria a population is fulfilling, that is known as a target population. So example is, a researcher is interested in identifying the complication of type 2 diabetes mellitus among people who have migrated to Ludhiana. So what will be the target population? Here the target population will be the migrants at Ludhiana who are suffering from type 2 DM. So that is the target population. So here you can see the population and the target population, the population where the sample is drawn, and the sample is the representatives of the population. Now the next is accessible population. So the accessible population, it is aggregate of the cases or total number of cases that conform to designated criteria and are also accessible as subject for study. So if the population which is fulfilling the designated criteria which is set by the researcher, so that population will be known as accessible population. For example, a researcher is conducting a study on the registered nurse, those nurses who are working at Apollo Hospitals, Chennai. So in this study, the population for the study is all the registered nurses who are working at Apollo Hospitals, Chennai. But some of them may be on leave and may not be present or accessible for research study. So the accessible population for the study will be the registered nurse who meet the designated criteria and who are present at the time of study. So that is the accessible population. Now next is sample. So sample is a collection consisting of a part or subset of the objects or individual of population. And why we are selecting the sample? With the purpose, and these samples are the representing unit of the population. Now what is sampling? So sampling, it is the process that how we are selecting a sample from the population. And in this, we can divide the population into number of parts that is called sampling units. So what is element? So the individual entities that comprise the sample and population are known as an element. So an element is the most basic unit from whom we can collect the information. Okay. So this, and then next is sampling frame. So it is the list of all the elements or subjects in the population from which the sample is drawn. So it can be prepared, a researcher can either prepare it or it can be in pre-existing form which can be used by a researcher. So the example of sampling frame is a researcher can prepare a list of all the household of a locality which have a pregnant woman. Okay. So in the locality, if the researcher is wanting to do a study on pregnant women, the researcher that themselves can prepare a list that how many pregnant women are there in that locality in each houses, or the researcher can use a register of pregnant women from antenatal care available with the local Anganwadi workers. So that will be a existing frame. Okay, so that is a sampling frame. So here you can see in this picture the examples of sampling elements. So this is the population. You can see this blue one is the population. So population of the city household. So here many houses are there. So single house is known as element. And then the sample, few houses will make a sample, and each house in that sample is the sample unit, which is also known as subject. What are the advantages of sampling? So the advantages of sampling, firstly, economical. So it reduces the cost. So if we are doing the analysis or inferences, taking the entire population, it will be very costly. So that's what we are doing, sampling, so that the cost will be reduced. Then increase speed. So collection of data and analysis and interpretation of data will take less time since the sample will be less. Accuracy. So due to the limited area of coverage, the accuracy will be more. Report. So the chances to maintain better report with the samples will be more, so that the more validity and reliability of the results will be there. So these are the advantages of sampling, that is It is economical, increase speed, accuracy, and rapport. Now, what are the disadvantages of sampling? So the disadvantages of sampling, number one, biasness. So chances of biasness is more while selecting or leading to incorrect conclusions. So while selection, we can be biased, and that's what this biasness may lead to the incorrect conclusion or inferences. Now, selection of true representative sample. Sometimes it is difficult to select the right representative sample. So that is the another disadvantages. Another one is need for specialized knowledge. So the researcher should have a specialized knowledge and training and experience in the sampling technique so that proper statistical analysis can be made without error. So impossibility of sampling, that is sometimes population is too small or too heterogeneous that the samples what we have selected, that may not be the representative sample. So that is these impossibility of the sampling. So these are the disadvantages of sampling, that is biasness, selection of true representative sample, need for specialized knowledge, and impossibility of sampling. Now, next we'll move on to the characteristics of a good sample. How we will say that this sample is a good. So the characteristics of a good sample, a true representative of population. The sample always should be a true representative of the population. Secondly, it should be free from any error or bias. Then the sample what we are taking, it should be of adequate size and should be reliable. Then unit of sample should be independent and relevant, and it should be complete, precise, and up-to-date, and it should be free from random sampling error. So these characteristics the sample should fulfill. And also avoid substituting the original sample for convenience. So we should not substitute any sample based on our convenience. So that should be the characteristic of a good sample. So next we'll move on to the sampling process. So sampling process, that firstly, we have to define the population. In defining the population, then we have to see what is our target population. Then we have to define our accessible population. After that, we have to determine and select our sampling frame. After determining the sampling frame, then we have to decide the sampling procedures. Sampling procedures, that which sampling procedures we have to choose, whether probability sampling or non-probability sampling. So probability sampling, which is mostly used in the quantitative sampling, such as simple random sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling, systematic sampling, and multi-stage sampling. Non-probability sampling, which is mainly used in qualitative sampling, such as convenient sampling, judgmental sampling, quota sampling, and snowball sampling. So after choosing the appropriate sampling procedure, then we have to determine the appropriate sample size, and nextly we have to execute the sampling design. So this is the sampling process. So next, sampling method. So as I have already discussed, that is, it can be divided into two, that is probability sampling and non-probability sampling. And the probability sampling, what all the sampling techniques are coming under that, that is simple random sampling, systematic sampling, cluster sampling, stratified sampling, and under non-probability sampling, snowball sampling, quota sampling, and convenience sampling. So types of sampling we will see in detail. So probability sampling. So probability means chance. So a probability sampling is one in which each member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. So it is mainly used, as I already discussed, in a quantitative research. So here in the probability sampling, what all the samples we are using, all the samples have an equal opportunity to be selected. Okay. So if you want to produce results that are representative of the whole population, the best technique is the probability sampling technique. Non-probability sampling, where the equal chance is not given to all. Okay. So in probability sampling, randomness is the element of control. Okay, randomization is possible in probability sampling. Whereas in non-probability sampling, it relies on the personal judgment. So we'll see now each sampling in detail. So firstly, probability sampling in that simple random sampling. So here all the members, as I said, have the same chance or equal chance, that is known as probability of being selected. So random method, it provides an unbiased cross selection of the population. So this is the best method of sampling, simple random sampling. So for example, we wish to draw a sample of 50 students from a population of 400 students. So there are 400 students and we have to draw 50 students from it. So what we can do in this simple random sampling? So we will have three methods for doing simple random sampling. First is lottery method, then next is random number table, and the third one is computer used random number table. So in lottery method, what we will be doing, we will be writing those all 400 students' name in chits, and then we will be placing all 400 chits into a container or a hat. We will be mixing it properly, and then we will be selecting each chits. And then we will be selecting the chits, and then we will be noting down the names of the students. Okay. So that is the probability sampling. It can be done in two ways, with replacement and without replacement. With replacement means you have chosen one chit, you have noted down, and then you can replace it again in the same container. That is with replacement. Without replacement means you have taken out the chit, you have noted down, and then you are not again replacing it back. So that is the lottery method. Then the next one is random number table. In this, what it is done, that we have to make a table with a table of random numbers, and in which the students can be, the 400 students can be given a number, specific numbers, and then we have to make this table, and the researcher will blindfold themselves and randomly they will select the 50 samples. Okay, so that is the table of random numbers. And in computer use table of random numbers also, same method is adopted, but only thing is with the use of computer, we will be making the tables. So this is all about simple random sampling. So next we'll move on to the another sampling, that is systemic sampling. So each member of the sample comes after an equal interval from its previous member. It involves the selection of every kth case from list of group. So here the each member of the sample, they will have an opportunity that they will again get selected, and they will be selected after a specific interval, that is kth case from the list or group. So we'll see the example. So here kth case means n by n. So that means k is equal to number of subjects in target population. So capital N, that refers to number of subjects in the target population, and that is upon size of sample, how much the sample is needed. So a researcher wants to choose about 100 subjects from a total target population of 500 people. So there are 500 people, and from that the researcher has to choose only 100 subjects. So by using this formula, what can be done? The total number of target population is 500 and the size of sample is 100. So when we will divide it, we will get 5. So therefore, every fifth person will be selected in this method. So a list of subject is prepared for the target population, and then the first subject we will be selecting randomly, and later every kth subject, that is every fifth subject, will be selected from the sampling frame. So this is the systematic sampling. Okay, now next is stratified sampling. So in stratified sampling, the population is divided into smaller groups or strata. Strata means small groups. So we will be dividing the groups into, the samples into small groups based on some specific characteristics. And from each of these strata or from each of these group, the samples will be selected randomly. So finally, from each stratum, as I said, using simple random or systematic sample method will be used to select the final sample. So you can see here in this picture that this is the total population where we can see the different shapes, that is circular shapes and squares, triangles, and we can see the different shapes. Okay. So then in the next, you can see the population is divided into different strata. Okay. So the circles are separate and the filled circles, colorful circles are separate, then squares are separate and the colorful squares. So like that, they have made different groups. And then in stratified sampling through random sampling, they have selected from each strata one sample. So that is what about stratified sampling. They will be divided into different groups, and then from each group the samples will be selected using simple random sampling. So now the simple random the stratified sampling has two categories. That is, for one is proportionate stratified sampling. So the sample chosen from each stratum is in proportion to the size of total population. So that is, researcher has, for example, the researcher has 3 strata. Okay, so in 3 strata, they are containing 100, 200 and 300 population. The sizes are 3. That is, in one strata there are 100 samples. In 200, in another one there are 200 samples, and in third one there are 300 samples. So now what researcher they will be doing, the researcher selects a sampling fraction half. So half means then researcher has to select randomly from one strata, that is, which is having 100 samples, 50 from that. From 200, the researcher will be selecting 100 samples, and from 300, the researcher will be choosing 150. So that is, the samples are selected in a proportionate way. Okay, so that is the proportionate stratified sampling. Now the next one is disproportionate stratified sampling, where the sample chosen from each stratum is not in proportion. Okay, so here the example is, if researcher wants to study biophysical profile of nursing students in any nursing college, so which contains 100 students from Himachal or 200 students from Haryana and 300 students from Punjab, the researcher will choose different sampling fractions. We can choose, that is, then select sample of 50. So from anywhere, the researcher probably can choose the 100 students from Himachal, from there 20 from the 200 students from Haryana, and probably 10 from the 300 students from Punjab. So this is not in proportion. So that's what it is, disproportionate stratified sampling. So stratified sampling can be categorized into two, that is proportionate and disproportionate stratified sampling. Now the next is cluster sampling, which is also known as multi-state sampling or area sampling. So in cluster sampling, the random selection of sampling unit consisting of population element, and then from each selected sampling unit, a sample of population element is drawn through simple or systematic random sampling. It is also known as area sampling. Why it is known as area sampling? Because the selection of individual member is based on the place, residence or employment from where they are. So that's what it is known as, also area sampling or cluster sampling. So for example, a researcher requiring to survey the academic performance of Indian high school students. So the researcher will be dividing the entire Indian population. So here you can see the population, this is the population, and then we have made the cluster, and then randomly from these clusters, the samples are being chosen. So cluster sampling can be single state sampling or 2-state sampling, or it can be a multi-state sampling. Now, next is sequential sampling. So this method of sample selection is slightly different from other methods. So here the sample size is not fixed. So researcher initially selects small samples and they will try to make the inferences. And if not able to draw result, they are not able to come to any conclusion, then based on the need, some samples will be added. So that is the sequential sampling. So for example, a researcher is studying the association between smoking and lung cancer. So initially researcher has taken a smallest sample and tries to draw inferences out of that. But if they are unable to do that, then again the researcher will add some more samples to it. So that is the sequential sampling. So here you can see in this diagram, so sequential sampling, the observations are gathered one at a time in a step-by-step fashion. So firstly, this is the population, and then the sample is drawn, n size. This is the first sample testing. Then if the researcher is not able to draw the inferences, then again sample will be drawn, second sample, that is n1 size. Then sample will be tested again. If the researcher feel that I'm not able to make the conclusion, then the samples will be drawn again, that is n2 size. So that is the third sample testing. So this is the sequential sampling. So this is all about probability sampling. Now moving on to the next, that is non-probability sampling. So in non-probability sampling, first is the purposive sampling. So purposive sampling is more commonly known as judgmental or authoritative sampling. So in this type of sampling, subjects are chosen to be part of the sample with a specific purpose in mind. So researcher is having a purpose, and with that purpose, the researcher will be choosing the sample for the study. So for example, a researcher wants to study the lived experience of post-disaster depression among people living in earthquake-affected areas of Gujarat. So in this case, a purposive sampling technique is used, and based on that, the subjects who were the victim of the earthquake disaster and are suffering from depression, because of that post-disaster depression, the people are suffering. So those samples only will be selected. So that is an example of purposive sampling. So here also you can see here, so many colorful dolls are there. So with the purpose that the researcher only want green color dolls, so the sample has been selected. So that is the purposive sample. Now the next type of non-probability sampling is convenience sampling. So in convenience sampling is probably the most common of all sampling techniques. Why? Because it is fast, it is inexpensive, easy, and the subjects are selected readily available. So in convenience sampling, which is a non-probability sampling technique, subjects are selected due to their convenient accessibility. That is, we are able to select it. Their accessibility is very convenient, and proximity to the researcher. So the example is, if a researcher wants to conduct a study on the older people residing in Ludhiana, and the researcher has observed that he can meet many older people who are coming to the morning walk in the nearby park. So that is a more convenient way. So the researcher will be selecting those old people only who are coming for the morning walk to the nearby park. So that is the convenience sampling. So you can see in this picture, that is convenience sampling. So the researcher here doesn't want any purple figures in the sample. So the most convenient way is the middle one. So here no purple figures are there. So the researcher will be selecting these samples. Now the next is quota sampling and the non-probability sampling. So here the selection of the sample is made by the researcher, who decides the quotas for selecting sample from specified subgroups of the population. So it is somewhat, like stratified sampling only, where here the researcher is dividing the samples into specific subgroups or quotas. So the researcher ensures equal or proportionate representation of subjects, depending on which trait is considered as the basic of the quota. So here, as I said, the researcher will be dividing the samples based on their specific characters into the quotas or subgroups. So example is, if the basis of the quota is college level and the researcher needs equal representation, then the sample size of 100, he or she must select. So sample size kitna lena hai? That is, the sample size what the researcher has to select is 100. So the researcher, what they will be the researcher will be taking the samples from each year. From the first year students 25 samples, from the second year students 25, from the third year 25, and from the fourth year 25. So in this way, from each quota, from each year, the researcher will take equal samples. So another example is, the researcher has to the researcher needs data from 40 adults and 20 adolescents in order to study students' television viewing habits. What the researcher will be doing, how the researcher will be selecting it? The researcher will be selecting 20 adult men and 20 adult women, then 10 adolescent girl students and 10 adolescent male students. So this is how the researcher will be selecting the samples. So this is the quota sampling. Now the next is snowball sampling. So in snowball sampling, the researcher identify and select available respondents who meet the criteria for inclusion. So the researcher have their own criteria, and the respondents who fulfill this criteria, the samples who fulfill this criteria, they will be included in the study. So after the data have been collected from the subject, the researcher asks for a referral of other individuals who would also meet the criteria and represent the population of concern. So like in this, what will happen? The chain will be formed. So that's what it is also known as chain sampling or chain referral or sampling referral sampling. So the another name of snowball sampling is chain sampling or chain referral or sampling referral sampling. So the example is, researcher wants to conduct study on the prevalence of HIV/AIDS among commercial sex workers. So the snowball sampling can be done in 3 ways. That is the linear snowball sampling. The next one is exponential non-discriminative snowball sampling. And the third one is exponential discriminative snowball sampling. So in linear snowball sampling, the researcher will be selecting a sample, and that sample the researcher will be asking to refer to the other sample. So it will be a linear, that is one sample will be referring to the another sample, and this sample again, the second sample will again referring to the another sample. So in this, a linear snowball sampling will be formed. Now the next is exponential non-discriminative snowball sampling. In this, the researcher will be selecting 2 samples, and then in that 2 samples, the one will be referring to another 2 samples, and the another will be referring another 2 samples. So like that, exponential non-discriminative snowball sampling, a big samples will be selected. And whereas in exponential discriminative snowball sampling, what will be there? The researcher will be referring to 2 samples or selecting the 2 samples, in which one will be, they will not be referring to anybody, but the another one will referring to the another sample. So again, that another sample will be referring to 2 more, but in that 2 more, one will be stagnant. They will not refer to anybody, but the another one will be referring to another 2 people. So in this way, again, the sampling will be formed, and that type of sampling is known as exponential discriminative snowball sampling. So this is all about snowball sampling. Hope it is clear. Now coming to maximum variation sampling. So maximum variation sampling, it is a non-probability sampling technique and used in qualitative research to ensure that a wide range of perspectives is included in this study. Okay, so that is the maximum sampling we need here. So the primary goal here is to identify and understand the common pattern that is emerging and across diverse cases, so which can lead to a more comprehensive understanding of the research topic. So it will be clear with the example. So for example, media consumption. So researcher want to gauge a public opinion. A researcher is interested to get a public opinion on a television show, and so for a particular television show. So sample opinions from 4 distinct groups. So the researcher will be collecting this the views, or they will be collecting the samples from 4 distinct groups. That is extremely young group, and extremely young and poor, extremely young and rich, extremely old and poor, and extremely old and rich. So this many variety will be there in the sample. So that is what it is known as maximal variation sample, where in the sampling there will be more variety will be there. Now coming to typical sampling. So the typical sampling, it is a typical case sampling that allows to develop a profile about what is usual or average for a particular phenomenon. So example is that you were studying violence in school. So if you have to study a violence in a school, so the first step would be to list all the criteria that defines violence for a typical school. So what do you mean by violence for a particular school? So you have to list down the criteria. So after listing down the criteria, then you would choose school that meet that criteria. Then you have to, based on your criteria, you have to then choose the school. So you want to select school that are average or meeting your selected criteria. So instead of schools with very high or very low violence rates, you will be choosing based on your criteria. So that is only known as typical sampling, because your criteria will be typical, and then based on your criteria, you will be selecting the school. So that is typical sampling. So the next is homogeneous sampling. So in homogeneous sampling, all the items in the sample are chosen because they have similar or identical traits. So, based on their traits, identical traits, similar traits, the samples will be chosen. For example, people in a homogeneous sample, they might share the same age, location, or employment. So all the samples what we are choosing in this homogeneous sampling, they have to have same age group, or either they will be locating in the same area, or they are doing the same job. So that is the homogeneous sampling. So the selected traits are ones that are useful to a researcher. So that is homogeneous sampling. So this is all about the non-probability sampling technique. Now next we'll move on to the types of sampling errors. So there are 2 types of sampling error. So number 1 is basic or chance error. So basic or chance error. So in this error, this occurs usually by chance. Okay. So for example, researcher did comparative study on malnutrition in 2 cities. Okay. So the researcher is doing study on comparing the 2 cities, how much the malnourished children are there in those 2 cities. For example, A and B are the cities. So unfortunately, what happened that the city B had a large number of slum dwellers. So in the slum dwellers means the chances of having malnourished child in the slum dwellers will be more. So this will affect the result. So that is by chance it happened. The researcher has chosen 2 cities, but what happened by chance? In this city B, the slums are there. So that's what the chances of having malnourished children are more over there. So that is basic or chance errors. Next is sampling bias. So in sampling bias, it is the tendency to favor a selection of sample units that poses particular characteristics. So by not following the random sampling technique, so it can be happen. So that is a sampling bias. So these are the two sampling errors which usually occur during sampling techniques. So example is sampling bias. A study is done on nursing students staying at a hostel or as a paying guest. So this study is biased towards students who are hostler or paying guests because we are doing particularly study on them. But this study will exclude the students who come from their own homes or who are the day scholars. So that can be a sampling bias. So these are the two main sampling errors that that occurs in the sampling technique, that is basic chance errors or sampling bias. So now we'll move on to a simple exercise where I will be reading out one sentence and then the participants have to tell which type of sampling it is. So you can unmute yourself and you can tell which type of sampling technique it is. So ready? So the first is here you have to identify what type of sample is this. So first question is, a student council surveys 100 students by getting random samples of 25 from first year, 25 from second year, 25 from third year and 25 PG. So in your opinion, what kind of sample is this? Anybody?
Participants can type the answers in chat box as well, which type of sampling it is.
So it is a stratified random sampling. Now the next is, an airline company wants to survey its customers one day. So they randomly select 5 flights that day and survey passenger on those flights. So what kind of sampling is this? Not getting any response. Participants, are you awake or I have made you sleep?
Ma'am, they are giving their answers in chat box actually. Some are writing snowball sampling, some are writing
Okay, I'm not
similarly
able to
random
read those
sampling.
chat box. Okay, no issues.
Okay, ma'am.
So it is a cluster sampling. So the next is, a teacher puts student's name in a hat and choose without looking to get a sample of students. What kind of sampling it is? It is a simple random sampling. Then a principal takes an alphabetized list of students' name and picks a random starting point. Every 20th student is selected to take a survey. What kind of sampling it is? It is a systematic sampling. So the next is, each student at a school has a student identification number. Counselors have a computer generated 50 random identification numbers and those students are asked to take a survey. So what kind of sampling it is? So it is simple random sampling. So next is, a principal orders t-shirts and wants to check some of them to make sure they were printed properly. So she randomly select 2 of the 10 boxes of t-shirts and checks every shirts in those 2 boxes. What kind of sampling it is? So it is a cluster sampling. Now a school chooses 3 randomly selected athletes from each of its sports team to participate in a survey about athletics at a school. So what kind of sampling it is? So it is a stratified random sampling. So hope it is clear. And now the one example is there. So the title is Academic Performance of Students in College of Business Administration. So population and sample design. So the population of this study includes all students enrolled in the College of Business Administration at ABC University during the year 2023-24 academic year. So totaling approximately 2,500 students. So sampling frame was derived from the university registrar's updated list of students for the specified academic year. Sample size determination. So we can determine the sample size for a finite population with 95% confidence and 5% margin of error. So the researcher employed the statistical formula that was developed by Yemen in 1969, that is n is equal to n by 1 plus n e square. So here small n refers to required sample size, capital N is population size, and E refers to margin of error. So the N required sample, here 2,500 students are there, then 1 plus 2,500 and then 0.5 square. So total is 345 will be the sample size. So 345 students will be selected out of 2,500 students, and the sampling method which is used is probability sampling and or stratified random sampling technique can be used. So this is an example. So hope it is clear. So the conclusion is we have seen the various terminologies of which is included or involved while studying sampling. Then we have seen different types of sampling, that is probability sampling. Under probability sampling, we have seen simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling, and under non-probability sampling methods, we have seen convenience sampling, quota sampling, snowball sampling, maximum variance sampling, judgmental sampling, homogeneous sampling. So any doubt? Hope I am clear.
Dear participants, you are requested to ask your queries if you have any. Also, you can mention your query in chat box so that we can ask from ma'am on your behalf.
Ma'am, there is one query in the chat box by Nisha. Which method will be used to draw sample for first, second, and third set under sequential sampling?
Then I'm done.
Actually, she has done direct message, I think. Miss Nisha, you can type your message in QA box or you can unmute yourself.
Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon. Hello.
Ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am. Shelvina, ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am. So I have a doubt. So when we were explaining about the sequential sampling, so ma'am was
Yes.
talking about the 3 sets, ma'am. Set 1, set
Ma'am,
2,
your
set
voice is
3.
not clear.
Okay, about the sequential sampling, am I
Yes.
audible, ma'am? Yeah.
Yes.
So under sequential sampling, we were discussing about sets. The first set you can draw, and the second set and third set. Third or any number of sets. So under that, is there any method to draw samples of those 3 sets? Is there a particular method we should use to draw samples for all those sets? Like going back to simple random or stratified random, whatever.
Yes. We can adopt either simple random sampling or the stratified random sampling. Through that only we can draw the samples. Yes.
Only through those
in
two.
sequential sampling.
Under sequential. Okay, ma'am. And one more question is there any major difference between convenient and purposive sampling? Because those two look the same.
Yes. That seems to be same. That is, if you have a particular purpose, you have to go for purposive sampling, and based on your convenience, which can, if it is easily accessible for you, so then you can go for convenient sampling. So not much difference in that.
That is okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Ma'am, there is one query from Miss Rija Raju. If we replace a name in lottery method, will it qualify as a probability sampling?
Yes. We will replace, because there are two methods in a lottery method, that is with replacement and without replacement. So that will be there.
Okay, ma'am. And ma'am, thank you, ma'am. Two students are asking about sample size calculation discussion. If you can, please.
Okay, the sample size calculation, as I have mentioned in the last slide, 1 minute. So here, this you can see in this, the sample size, how we will be calculating. So this is the formula, that is n equal to n by 1 plus n e square. So this is the formula which can be followed. So here n, small n, refers to required sample size, how much size you want. And then the capital N, that is the population size. So the formula which is given by Mn is n equals to n by 1 plus n e square. So here when I have given the example, that is there were 2,500 students were there. So that is the population, 2,500 students. Okay. And then when we are fitting this, the number in the formula, that is 2,500 plus divided by 1 plus 2,500, and 5% is the chances of margin error. So that is 0.5 square. So when we will be calculating this, the what quantity what we are getting, that will be the sample size. This is the sample size calculation. Clear? So this is the formula. N equal to n, capital N by 1 plus n e square. Hope it is clear.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Are there any other queries from any of the participants?
Thank you.
Any further queries? Anything you want to discuss with ma'am? Ma'am, can you please give an research example on the subtype of snowball sampling?
What they are asking? Example.
Ma'am, they're asking about the subtype of snowball sampling and research example of subtype of snowball sampling.
Okay, so in that I have given example, that is HIV patients. Okay, so if we have to select HIV patient, I'll go to that slide. That will be more clear then. Yeah. Yeah. So the snowball sampling, the example what I have given is HIV AIDS or among commercial sex workers. So this is our sample. Okay. So in this subtype, that is the three methods are there, linear snowball sampling. So in this linear snowball sampling, we have selected one sample. Okay. One HIV AIDS patient or any commercial sex worker. That person we will be asking to refer to their known one. So they will be referring here, you can see in this linear, they will be referring to the another one. And then this person will refer to another one and this person will refer to another one. So like this, a linear or line will be formed. So that is the linear snowball sampling. And then the another type is exponential non-discriminative snowball sampling. Here, the one, the researcher will be selecting two AIDS patients or the commercial sex workers, and they will be selecting two samples. And then those one samples will be again referring to the other people. And then the other people will be again referring to others. So like that, the samples which will be formed, that is known as exponential or non-discriminative snowball sampling. Whereas in the third one, that is exponential discriminative snowball sampling, here the researcher will be referring to or they will be selecting two samples. In that, one will be dormant. The one will not be doing any referral work, but the another one will be referring to another two people. Then those two people, those two people, one will be dormant again, and in that one will be referring to other two. So like that, the sampling which will be formed, that is known as exponential discriminative snowball sampling. So these are the three ways which we can follow, that is linear snowball sampling, exponential non-discriminative snowball sampling, and exponential discriminative snowball sampling. Hope it is clear.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It is clear to Miss Nisha. There is one more query from Miss Anushri Vanek. She's asking about one group pre-test, post-test sample size calculation using standard deviation.
So one group pre-test, post-test using standard deviation. So in that, what she wants to know?
Sample size calculation, ma'am.
Okay. So sample size calculation, that will be based on, you have to have a topic, no? Ki what is the topic you are selecting? This is the method. This is the methods. So, but you have to have a sample. What is the sample you are choosing? And then based on that, you can put that in the formula. What formula I have shown you, that Yemen formula. So based on that formula, you can calculate and you can get the sample size. That n equals to capital N by 1 plus n E square. So that formula you can use to calculate the sample size.
I hope it is clear to Miss Anushri Vanek that one group pre-test, post-test study is a type of study, and the sample size calculation is actually based on your ROL, where you'll be going through some population which it will be referring, and from that population you can use that capital N as discussed
Yemen formula. Yeah.
in Yemen formula, and then you can calculate the sample size. Thank you so much. Ma'am, she is clear about it now. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other queries? So, Poonam ma'am, can we conclude for today's session?
Yes, of course, ma'am. As we are done with the most of the queries, and the session was crystal clear to everyone. And we are very much grateful to Professor Dr. Shelvina ma'am for your willingness to share your knowledge and experience and your expertise regarding sample methods with us. Your session was really inspiring and it provided valuable takeaways for our dear participants as well. Thank you again for your contribution, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Once again, thank you, Poonam, and the entire team of Nursing Teachers Association of India. Thank you, Farooq sir, for giving me this opportunity. And hope I have done justice and hope it is clear.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
So as we conclude for today's insightful session,